The Eggman is one of Deltarune's greatest mysteries. There have been quite a few, but among the theories, there is one which, while somewhat popular, is mainly talked about as being a joke or taken at face value. That theory is Papyrus being the man behind the tree. Join me today where I defend my favorite skeleton and also try and debunk some other theories about the Eggman. Let us start off with debunking some theories on the Eggman. Okay, I'm not really debunking them, but I'm not adding more evidence to them either. Starting off with the theory that the Eggman means nothing and is just a reference to Earthbound. Now, if we just had the first 3 chapters, this theory would probably be the most common answer, but with Chapter 4's Egg Room, it seems this theory is the first to actually be debunked since it's clear Chris Past is involved in some way. The next theory is that the Eggman is Gaster. Now, I think Chapter 3 debunks this one since the Eggman talks and acts nothing like Gaster. Now, my last non-Papyrus theory about the Eggman is that he's the same as the one from Sonic. Okay, this one is just a joke since it makes no sense for some Sonic villain to be an important Deltarune character. Actually, I take back what I said earlier since now I pretty much have debunked those theories, and with that out of the way, let us now talk about the Great Papyrus. So, you're probably wondering which piece of evidence I'm going to bring up. Well, to start with the basics, we never see Papyrus in Deltarune, so he could just be behind the tree. The next piece of evidence is with the merch of the skirt that had Papyrus behind the tree, hinting at him being the Eggman. As for some more stronger evidence, in the Papyrus interview, he mentions being at a place with green grass before moving to Undertale. Now, while Deltarune's hometown has lots of grass, there is another area that does. Man Country. Furthermore, the Eggman seems to be too serious, even telling a ridiculous tale that is actually true. And you know who else has a ridiculous story that is actually true? Papyrus, who tries to convince Undyne about Flowey being real in Undertale, her not agreeing by saying he's imaginary even though he's real. This could also apply to Ascari with whatever his backstory in Deltarune is, and there's also the line of, "Don't forget me, your Egg's husband." Wait, is Ascari the Eggman? Okay, let's talk about that another day. Now, let us talk about the big wrench that's thrown out at this theory in Chapter 4. It all has to do with the Egg Room. The Egg Room in Chapter 4 is very different, with it revolving and Chris trauma and them most likely seeing something around the tree. Papyrus has nothing related to Chris trauma and wasn't even in hometown at the time, so he would be the Eggman. Well, in Undertale, he's seen encouraging Frisk to do the right thing, and while it could be because of Flowey, this encouragement seemed to start with him, and you know who else is very encouraging? That's right, therapists. If you haven't gotten it by now, the Egg Room in Chapter seems to have a therapist setting. This also ties a parallel between young Chris and Genocide Frisk because both have violent tendencies, and if I'm correct, both are encouraged by Papyrus to stop said tendencies. So, is there anything else to talk about? Well, there's one thing I haven't talked about, and that is the Eggman's other name. No, I'm not referring to Papyrus but rather the name we get in Chapter 3. The Forgotten Man. This name ties a lot to Papyrus because if you check him in the Genocide run, after his stats, his description only has one word. Forgettable. This is already a Chekhov's gun, but what's even more convincing is how they both start to not be forgotten. This is because Chris takes the eggs to remember the Eggman and Frisk takes spaghetti to remember Papyrus. Okay, that's a bit of a stretch, but what isn't a stretch is the fact the Eggman is in the light world and Papyrus also appears in the light world, and they both have a connection to cars, and they both have connections to food and takeout boxes, and both have a connection to donuts, dumpsters, windows, and wheat, and they're also very okay, ignore that last part, but everything else makes sense. So there you have it, folks, a totally not crazy theory about Papyrus being the Eggman. Anyways, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. My birthday, so can everyone watching please like and subscribe and comment happy birthday. If you're watching this the day after, just do the exact same thing except you comment happy late birthday. Also, thanks for watching the whole through lads.